Sure, if you're not at this, what else are you going at? There's nothing better than going around the harbour having a yarn. Good day, boys, and welcome to this episode 9 of the Harbour Yarn Podcast with myself, Adam Hatter, also known as Harbour Customs. Boys, you can find me on all my socials. I'm always posting on TikTok, almost daily at this point, but everything that gets posted on TikTok also gets cross-posted over to Instagram as well. So if you're an Instagram user, you'll find me there just as easy. You're probably watching this podcast right now on YouTube if you're watching it, because that's where it's living right now. But if you'd rather listen to your podcast as you're driving along, such as I do, you'll be able to find it over on Spotify as well. I haven't been posting the video copies on Spotify as of lately, but it's something I'm going to try to start doing. Because while I do listen to my podcasts in aboard the truck, I usually have them on down on the garage as well. If I'm picking and poking at anything, it's nice to have it up on the screen. So I'll see if I can get them videos up on the Spotify sooner rather than later. Alright, boys, and as we often do get started off, well, how was episode 8 received? Boys, you've heard it from me before, you're going to hear it from me again. I've been slacking. Episode 8 isn't even chopped up yet. I only put out episode 7 there last week. I got to edit episode 8 yet. Usually it takes the time to chop and edit all these podcasts while I'm offshore on my off shift. That's where I find it easiest, because when I'm home, I am fairly busy. But I never got around episode 8 there yet. The past few episodes have been a little bit strange for myself because they've just been solo ones. They've been fairly short. I mean, you're thinking between 15 and 25 minutes of me just rambling on. I likes the component of having a guest. What I have figured out, boys, is that getting a guest scheduled in my 3 weeks off, while it might seem easy, is pretty hard. I only usually be recording a couple of days a week just because of where we get the studio to. Right now, we got a few limitations on that side of it. So trying to line someone up for just them couple of days, really in the span of 2 weeks. I can't shoot on my first week because I travels on a Tuesday. That's the early part of my week gone for that week. It is a little bit difficult. We got a few people that do want to come on. They're a good ways away from where I'm here to in Whittlespain Bay Bulls. So we're trying to get them in, but trying to schedule everyone up by not an easy thing. Now, that being said, I'm hoping to get a guest on at least for this one, perhaps the next one as well. We'll see what I can do in my last week that I got home here, because I am in my last week home, boys, which is wild to say. Time is absolutely nothing going. But we'll try to have a guest on so they can have an old yarn on with us as well. For now, and for the past couple episodes, you'll just have to deal with me. It is what it is. Now, boys, moving into the next segment, what's on the go? Lots on the go this time. It's been a busy hitch, but it's definitely been a fun hitch. Right off the bat, I got home on time and under budget, which is a great thing when you're flying back and forth from offshore. I did get home on time, and the first weekend I was home, well, it was St. Patrick's Day weekend. Almost like a whole week of activities that we've on the go, it seems, here lately. So I got in on time. First thing, right off the bat, there was a dandy session down the Broderick's Pub on Wednesday night. We were fortunate enough to have Gerard McCarthy over with us for the St. Patrick's Day weekend, and he was heading up the sessions down there that night. Boys, I can't express to you, I've said it before, I'll say it again here now, the amount of talent that was in that room that night between different musicians doing a lot of trade, Gerard himself, and everyone else that was down there going around. It was a deadly night, boys. I'm so happy that I got down there. This was the first time myself and Gerard actually had met in person. We talked back and forth a ton, tried to meet up while I was over in Belfast, but we never really could get it to work through the jigs and reels of it all. But finally got to meet the fella and have a good old yarn with him down there the other night. It was wicked, boys. The man himself was down there taking part in the session as well, and I'm going to tell you now, to sit down and see Darcy play the fiddle for any length of time, is more than I can actually put in words. It's the first time I actually had a conversation with the man too, and I'll tell you from myself now, it was all I could do to hold it together, because I've been listening to his music so back as far as I can remember, and now the little girl is even learning his music, and I'll tell you too, such a solid fella to sit down and have a few words with. If you haven't been down to Broderick's Pub yourself, boys, you're missing out. Go down there, sit down, take it all in, and if you can get down there while Darcy and the boys are playing, they're called Black Gold, you won't be sorry to get down and see them. And it's the best pint of Guinness I'm after finding since I came back over to Newfoundland. You'll find it at Broderick's Pub, in my own humble opinion, boys. It is what it is. Now, while Gerard was over, he had a jam-packed schedule on the go. We had the session on Wednesday night, he played the Delta Friday, and Saturday night he was out to Carbonera on Sunday, and he was down to Broderick's again on Monday for St. Patrick's Day itself. Now, when I was down there on Wednesday, I met up with Gerard. He said, "Bye, do you want to come to the show?" I said, "Bye, we got a busy all week and I was hoping to get out, but I wouldn't show her today." He said, "Best kind, I'll get you onto the guest list." Anyway, Friday night come around, we had a little bit of a shag in the scheduling of it all. The wife had to work a little bit late, so I said, well, bye Shagget, I'll go on my own self. But I was a little bit late getting out to the show. So by the time I got out there, I parked the truck, I ran up to the Delta where the show was on the go. Now, I wouldn't show her where the entrance of said show was. I see a pile of hands out smoking. I said, must be there. Went up to the door, the security fella there, he said, do you have your ticket? I said, no, but I'm on the guest list. And as soon as I said, no, I didn't have a ticket, he didn't want to hear another word out of me at all. No, you go. That's all I could get out of him. I said, bye, I'm on the guest list though, like seriously, like, is there anyone I can talk to? No, you go. Is there anywhere else I can go in? Is there another entrance or something like that? Now, talking about it now, seems like a little bit of a sketchy thing for a fella who don't have a ticket looking for another entrance. I can get that end of it. Anyway, want to hear no part of it. At this point, it was about 20 past 9. Garage was going on at 9:30. I said, bye, I'm not going shagging with him now. He got his own thing on the go. So I text himself and Caitlin. I said, boys, thanks for putting me on the list, but unfortunately, I must have made it out too late and I can't find my way in. I was walking back down to the truck and Garage texted me himself. He said, where are you at? I said, bye, I'm walking down out of here now. I said, listen, thanks for everything. Enjoy the show, and certainly I'll try to meet up with you before he goes back. He said, get your arse back up here now. You're getting in here. I said, but you don't have to be arsing with this now. At this point, we're creeping even closer to 9:30. He's getting ready to go on stage. He said, no, you're getting in here now tonight. So I went back up, wandered my way back up to the Delta. He was outside. He took me, risked me in. He said, bye. He said, I don't understand what's on the go. He said, you're on the list, sir. Took me in around the other way. He actually goes in through the Delta where the actual entrance was to, not the side entrance for the smokers. Took me all the way in. He tasked me his guest pass. He said, now, he said, go up there, get yourself a beer, and we'll talk to you another once. And he went on. He tasked me the whole access pass. I went in, and boy, what a laugh we did have that night. From what I can gather, Friday night was a little bit more of a tame night than what Saturday night was. I see the media from Saturday night. 'Twas absolutely black there, boys. But Friday night was a dandy show too. Went in, got myself fixed up with a nice can of Black Horse, and enjoyed the show. And what a show he did play. And I'm going to say too, while I was there, how many people, if you're watching it right now, and you did wander your way up to me to have a yarn because they knew me from seeing me on TikTok, I can't tell you how many times I heard, are you that fella from TikTok? While I walked in through there that night. Didn't really think about it while I got up there, but I had a lot of dandy yarns with a lot of dandy people. If I was talking to you, boy, listen, I can only say that I appreciate you dropping over for an all yarn. The show clued off at the end of it, and then we made our way down to Broderick's for another couple of pints just to close out the night. And I'm going to say, boys, what a dandy night it was all around. And a big thanks to all the Broderick's for helping Garide line all that up. I know all ye were instrumental in doing all that, and it was such a great thing, especially on St. Patrick's Day week or weekend, whatever he wants to call it. What a nice thing to have here in Newfoundland while all that was going on. And boys, know that we do appreciate you actually trying to line this stuff up to have here in Newfoundland so we can all take it in. It means a lot. Now boys, obviously I got to touch on the sad element of it too. By the time you see this now, it's likely well a month past, but obviously while Garoy was here, his father took ill and he did end up passing away while he was over here doing the shows. And you can't say it enough, but certainly my heart goes out to Garoy and all of his family and friends over in Ireland for the loss of that man. Obviously, I've said before and I'll say it again, no loss is ever easy, but it's especially hard when you're away from home and you're struggling to get home. Now, that was last week. They're after having a funeral and having a celebration of his life since then. All you can hope during them times, boys, is that you can hang on to all them happy memories and celebrate them. A loss is not easy and it is very sad, but if we can focus on the happy things through the points in that person's life, I won't speak for anyone else, but I know if it was me, that's all I want for all of my friends and family in that time. But just to say it again, my heart goes out to you, Gride, and all your family, boy. And we can't wait to see you again when you gets back over to Newfoundland. Like I said to you, boy, we'll be waiting for you with a smile, a yarn, and a pint in hand. And also sticking with the St. Patrick's Day weekend, we took in a dandy trade session down at the Kitty Vitty Brew House down in Kitty Vitty. Myself and the little one went down to try to take in the session. She had a dandy old time. She loves the old trade music. She was dancing around. We had a little feed. Now she calls Kitty Vitty Kitty Squiddy. That's what she thinks of it now when she goes down there. We've went down there now a couple of times since, and we're hoping to try to make that a little part of our Sunday in the afternoon as well. Go down, take in the trade session, take in the local musicians and the local talent. It just feels right when you're down there. You're sitting down alongside the water, you get the music going, nice little feed, a nice pint with you as well. Well, it all comes together pretty good, I must say. And the same thing for those sessions as well, boys. If you're like myself and didn't have a clue what was on the go until I came back from Belfast and actually started asking about it, but it is a dandy thing to take in. So if you find yourself free on a Sunday afternoon and you're lucky enough to be able to take in one of them sessions down to Kitty Vitty, I'd more than recommend you go down and take that in, boy. It's really a solid thing to see here in Newfoundland and a dandy thing that we're able to enjoy. Now, boys, moving past St. Patrick's Day, the winter is absolutely shot, boys. I had me a little bit of winter last time when I was home on the Avalon. I had 2 solid good weeks of going around, beating around on the old beater skidoo. 'Twas deadly. I went offshore for 3 weeks. I come back home, all the snow was gone. On the west coast, it was still looking half decent for St. Patrick's Day weekend. But obviously, I was quite busy. We had a lot on the go. So I said, bye, I'll wait till next week. And by next week, the mild did come. Double-digit temperatures all through the week. There was rain. Now, I mean, you're looking at a week past that. They got the Grossmorn Park shut down now for lack of snow cover. It's really progressed into late spring riding in a flick like that. And I don't think I'm going to get another trip over to the West Coast myself. That means there's 2 years in a row, only one trip over. It is a hard racket trying to be skidooing down here in Newfoundland, especially, and I says it so often, but it's true, when you're at this rotation racket, because you misses large parts of your winter. Well, yes, you're home and you can pick up any day and go on over. You still do miss large parts of the winter, and it nailed me this year, boys. So there's one trip again to the West Coast. There's not much you can do with that at all. I was only looking at the truck yesterday. I said, boy, it's just as well to have the sled deck added it now because there's no more trips. And the weather as well, it has been pretty good. Last week here on the Avalon, we've had pretty decent temperatures. There's no trouble to get out around the door. It's all the big setup for a big false spring. So I'd imagine there's going to be Sheila's brush. It haven't struck yet. So she's waiting around the corner, in around there somewhere, to nail us with a big pile of snow. But if it is a fall spring and in the winter it's going to be gone, well, boy, I'll take it. We'll go in to the spring and summer activities. And getting on that, boys, spring and summer activities, I've been long thinking about getting a gravel bike. Now, what is a gravel bike? Well, it's a slighter form of a pedal bike, mostly used for gravel roads and a little bit of the road ride. Now, why am I going to do that? I'm normally found out to Kitty Vitty on the downhill enduro style bike tracks with the big old suspension bike. Well, I don't be at it all winter, and boys, that does end up taking a toll on the legs. So when you hops on her in May month, your legs let you know you haven't been at it. So I said a gravel bike could be a dandy thing to give me a little bit of a segue into the enduro bike season. So gravel bike, that's where she fits in. So I went out the other day. The fine folks down at Free Ride Mountain Sports down on Water Street, they were hooked me up with a GT Bicycles gravel bike. Dandy old rig, I must say. Now, this is primarily going to be something for me just to get my legs back in the game. So I took it out for a good little run the other day, all around the harbour and around a couple of the old side roads that we got. By what a laugh I did have. I said I'm only going out for a little run. Fine enough, it is what it is. I got that old gravel bike going down the old Flume Road and down a little bit of the steep and rocky sections. Now, boys, she don't have the ounce of suspension into her. She don't got big old knobby tires on her like the enduro bike got. So there's not a whole lot of forgiveness when you're bouncing down an old disused gravel road. I was laughing out loud, boys, as I was going down, just trying to hold on to her and not coming clear of it. It's the most excitement I've got since I'd say the last time I went down over Squid Jigger out in Kitty Vitty last fall. By what a laugh I had on that. And as soon as I got off it, I messaged a fella who owned the bike shop and said, boy, thanks for making that happen. Like, that's a way better of a laugh than I ever thought it was going to be. Because looking at it, I enjoy an enduro bike, and that's rocky, rooty, rough terrain, and you got a lot of suspension to be able to carry up with it, and you're trying to ride through it fast. I like riding through it fast. That's just what I enjoy. So going over to a gravel bike, I was getting into what a road bike would be. I didn't think that there was going to be a whole lot of a fun aspect on that. I thought it was more so just going to be you're getting a little bit of training in and you're going for a little ride out and around. But it was nice. You get a good ride around the harbour on an evening when there's not a whole lot of wind. Dodging around on the quiet of the old gravel bike. Well, boy, it was a laugh. And then mix in a little bit of that steep old dirt roads. Boy, I tell you get a recipe for something that I'm definitely going to enjoy on the shoulder seasons. Pre and post getting on the big enduro bike. I might have the gravel bike. I don't imagine you'll see me with one of them old lycra suits on, zipping in and out the line anytime soon. Again, that's just me. But boys, if you haven't swung your leg over a bike in the past little while, well, boy, dust her off if you got her out in the shade, or take a little one out for a burn. You might be surprised on how much you actually enjoys it. It's a dandy old laugh. Also staying in the fall spring vein of things, boys, I was able to get out and hike some of the East Coast trails around my own area. I had a little jaunt out to North Head in Bay Bulls. I hiked a section there from Witless Bay over the Bay Bulls, and also hiked a section from Mobile up to Torscove. Boys, that East Coast Trail is definitely something else. It's a gem of what we got here on the Avalon. And while I was over in Ireland and we hiked the Cliffs of Moher and all that, I said, boy, really got to try to make an effort to take in some of the East Coast Trail myself, because I've walked sections of it, the sections home. Usually Witless Bay and Mobile is one I frequented a lot. but I haven't took in all of it. And I said, boy, we got this world-class thing right in the backyard and not taking advantage of it. So I thought in, I said, when the weather do get better, I should really try to take in more of it. And I hiked them sections. I'm hoping, boys, to be able to do the works of it. And if you don't know where the East Coast Trail runs, she runs from Tapsell up around the top tip of the Avalon and then all the way back down. I think so far as Cabahaden. It might be a little bit further down than that. Anyway, it's about 330 odd kilometres a trail. I believe, I don't know if that takes into community walks as well, but nonetheless, 'tis a ton of trail. Now to date, boys, I've done about 20 kilometres out of that 300 odd. I got a lot of work left to do, but I'm hoping in time I can cover all the sections of it. I've actually started shooting a few little videos when I'm out doing those little sections of the East Coast Trail. I'm hoping to put them in a little tiny YouTube mini-series for anyone that's interested to actually take in sections of the trail or what sections of the trail might hold for them if he gets out. So, boys, look for that in the future. It is something that I'm looking to do. But I'd like to be able to say, just like when myself and Jessica hiked the cliffs some more, I'd like to be able to say, well, I done all the East Coast Trail and I took it all in. And it really is nice, boys, even on the little bit that I've covered so far. You're not going to find them views many other places in the world. And to have it right there in our backyard and to have them trails carved out on the side of the coastline there. Boy, I'm telling you, if you're any bit into the outdoors at all, go out and take them in. You'll be more than worth it to actually go see them. And this being in the first bit of fall spring, it's a dandy time of year to do it too. Now, is it wet? Yes. I ends up hiking them with my Dunlaps on. Some people will say they're foolish. I says I'm after spending falls and falls trampsing in over bogs and barns and woods looking for moose. I suppose I can do some sections of the East Coast Trail. Would I do a 20-kilometre hike in the Dunlaps? Well, boy, probably not. But for the shorter hauls, they're the best kind, especially this time of year because it is wet. But it's not too warm and there's no flies. So I call it the prime time to be starting to scout out around them. Some people are rather in the summer. I'm sure the fall of the year is a fine time as well. And if I'm going to do the works of it, I'm sure I'll cover almost every season by the time I get the works of it done. Now, boys, for the last section of what's on the go with me, the hats, boys. I'm running into a ton of trouble on the hats. I should have learned the first couple of times I done it because of the big delays I had, but I'm a sucker for punishment, and I said I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. They're still delayed. They tells me that they're waiting on one colourway that I ordered, which was navy with blaze orange on top of it. They're waiting a little while to get that in. And in the interim of all that, the old tariffs come in, so I'm going to get nailed with that when they crosses the border. I think that might be the nail in the coffin from getting them out of South Dakota. We're going to have to switch to a Canadian embroider after this because this is just getting too long in the tooth there now, boys. But they are being worked on. I'm being told that they'll be on the way soon. So when they do end up making their way to me, I know a lot of you have been asking them. You're in the DMs. Usually every other day someone's looking for another hat. Boys, when they get there, I'll certainly let you know and we'll get you hooked up. Now, boys, that was probably the longest What's on the Go with me segment of this podcast since I started recording this podcast, but it was a busy old hitch, and like you say, I'm usually not home for St. Patrick's Day weekend or day or week, whatever you want to call it. Lucky enough to be home this time, and there was lots on the go with that. But moving past that segment of the podcast and on to the next one, boys, the topic section. And this podcast topic, boys, is going to be rivalries and towns. Now, we're riffing off the last podcast we done. In episode 8, we touched on provincial rivalries. And what did I mean by that? Just different little gritty parts between provinces if they don't really get along. I mentioned the Newfoundland and Quebec one just because of so many years of history between us, especially over the Upper Churchill Agreement. Just always was that way. We did get a little bit of feedback out on TikTok. We touched on it. The boys in the Maritimes were calling New Brunswick no Funswick. You can take that for what it is. It seemed I got that from a couple of people. Not getting a whole lot of anything out of BC. And there was a little bit of a rivalry up there in the prairie provinces as well that I wasn't really sure of before, but you can check all that out back in episode 8 if you haven't yet. But keeping on team with that for this podcast topic is town rivalries in Newfoundland. And just saying with it, is there any towns that really don't get along between them? Now, I didn't put out a whole lot of media on that, so I threw it out there last night. I said, boys, what do you think? The one that always stood out in my mind, the Grand Falls and Windsor always get along. And by and large, what I've got feedback on was they do. And it seemed like they formed a little bit of an alliance against Alacrowd and Gander. So there's a little bit grit there between the boys. The other one I did see come up a couple of times was between Lewisport and Twillingate. Apparently when the boys gets together for a good old hockey game. There's definitely tension felt between the two. Don't know where it all stemmed from. And boys, if you're from Lewesport or if you're from Twillingate, reach out down in the comments or send us a DM. What's all that about? Where does it stem from and why is it still on the go? Another one I did see was Stephenville and Cornerbrook. When they got together, there was a little bit of grittiness between them. Boys, if you're from any of them spots, reach out and let us know. Dosa Dad actually reached out to me. He said the big one when he was growing up was what side of the overpass you're from. The St. John's side or out around the Bay side. That was the big divide. And God knows that's been talked about for decades, boys. Which side of the overpass are you from? What I didn't hear a lot of, boys, and that media had only been out for about 24 hours, so I'm sure more is going to trickle in as time goes on, was the rivalries between Mount Pearl, St. John's and Paradise. And I suppose you could even throw the Ghouls into it all. They're all in that kind of envelope of Metro St. John's, but they all get their distinct little areas. And if there ever was any grittiness between the areas. And same deal as before, boys, if you want to touch on that, throw it down in the comments or send us an old DM and we can definitely have a yarn about it. I'd love to have a yarn about it. I touched on one about up the shore here. We always used to say there was a bit of a rivalry between Witless Bay and Bay Bulls. We'd always joke back and forth growing up which one was better. Really, we'd have our own rivalry within the town. You'd have the north side versus south side. How many times did that get brought up? Playing ball hockey up on north side track, the north side versus south side, even when you'd have the north side and south side intermingled on the teams because you picked them with the sticks on the road. But it was always a great bit of fun. We also used to joke about the boys up in Torres Cove and Burnt Cove. They were farther up the shore than us, and they had their own little bit of a grudge match between us. And then Torres Cove would throw it into Burnt Cove too. Called it the home of the Roman dogs, just because there were so many loose dogs up there at the time. Torskov Passy, that was a whole other thing all in its own self. But there was always a little bit of fun to be had in between the communities on the shore, and I guess that's what brought the idea about of all the town rivalries in Newfoundland. So, boys, those who give us feedback, thank you for that. I do appreciate it. But if you got your own that you'd like to mention, throw them down in the comments, boys. Like you say, we can still have a yarn about it. Same thing with any topics that we've broached here on the Harbour Yarn podcast, boys. Don't matter how many podcasts ago they were, reach out and we can still have a yarn about it as time goes on. Closing out that topic, boys, but moving to the new one. And like I touched on in the What's on the Go with Me segment, plans for spring, boys. What are your plans for spring? Now, by the time you sees this, we're into the end of March. You're definitely looking at the end of April, early May, but still in good spring territory. Boys, what are you going at with your spring? For myself, like I touched on earlier, I'm going to be spending a lot of time on that gravel bike and I'm going to be spending a lot of time out on the East Coast trails trying to knock off some more segments of that trail as time goes on. But what about yourself? What are you getting into? I know for a lot of people, they're gearing up and getting ready to go fishing. There's still a lot of talk out in the media and out in the news about the crab fishery, what it's going to look like this year. But a lot of people are gearing up and that's a huge part of their spring. But what about yourself? What are you getting on with this spring? Are we picking up a new hobby? Are you picking up an old hobby to get back out on the go in this good weather and try to take advantage of it? You let us know. Sometimes it's as simple as getting the spring clean and done. And I don't know why it is, but in the spring of the year where the day is getting longer and all that, it just gets right in your head. Let's start gutting everything. For myself, I'll go up in the shade. It's time to clean out everything was on the floor, get it all up off the floor, get the floor cleaned up from all the drippings that's after coming off the truck over all winter, and get the place looking neat and tidy again. I don't know if it's just ringing in the spring. A lot of people will do that in their houses as well. Well, they call it spring cleaning, don't they, boy? So your spring might not look like getting out and about like that, but more so getting your house all back in order after a long old winter. Boys, whatever way you enjoys it is all your own. But let us know, how does your spring look to you? Another one that just popped in my head now talking about all that is springtime usually. Newfoundlanders start flocking down south, whether it be Dominican, Cuba, Jamaica, Bahamas, somewhere like that, just to get a clear at the end of winter and sometimes our not so great spring weather. Just get down and get the warm sunshine out of it and forget about it all just for a few days if nothing else. And that's fine enough too. I haven't been down south in a good many years yet. Not on the top of my list of things to be at, but to each their own. If that's what you enjoys, keep on after it, boys. Now, boys, that brings us to the guest segment of this episode 9 of the Harbour Yarn podcast. I'm hoping to have a guest struck in here. If you're saying this means I didn't manage to get a guest before I goes back offshore, which will be next week. Boys, I'm trying for it. That's all I can tell you. We'll get someone in again to have a good old yarn with us. I know there's a couple of buddies I got from growing up. We said we were actually going to sit down and record off a little bit of a yarn. That'd be a good one to stick around for. You'll see it in good time, boys. I do promise you. But if you are seeing this, unfortunately, no guest for you. So we'll roll right into the next segment of this episode 9 of the Harbour Yarn podcast, which is, boys, the VOCM news topic of the week. Now, what did I pick out this week? What's in the news, boys? The one that have dominated through the weekend there, because the Newfoundland Power put out their big report about why all the power bills were so high in January and February throughout Newfoundland and Labrador. Now, boys, what am I talking about? Well, it seemed like everyone got their power bills for January and February month, and they were way higher than what they would have anticipated. In some cases, almost doubled. Everyone was asking why. Their power consumption hadn't gone up. I'd actually seen a lot of accounts of people who weren't home at all, or it was their cabin and they weren't to their cabin for those couple of months, and their power bill had still gone up a ton. Now, Newfoundland Power was asked about it. Well, why? Why is our power bills going up like that? Their answer? Well, it was a colder winter than normal, so when it's cold, you use more power. Well, thank you for the great minds at Newfoundland Power for making that epiphany to us. There's no mistake. There was a lot of people saying it was the most mild winter they can remember. For me, that's not how I remember it. The 3 weeks that I was home, end of January, getting into early February, it was probably one of the more cold periods that I can remember in a row. There was basically one day that stands out to me that it actually got a little bit warmer, up above zero. But for the most time, it was fairly cold. And in the night time, we had double digits. So yes, certainly. So in my own good memory, yes, it was colder. But that being said, I looked at my power bill. I didn't get much of a change. If anything, I burnt a little bit less energy in January month than I did over January last year. I can attribute that because I put another mini split in the house, in the basement, and it definitely did make a difference to me. I'm almost ashamed to say I'm going on mini split heat rather than a wood stove, but boys, I bought a builder house. What do you do? And I've been saying for years, I'm not going to stay in on it, so I won't put a wood stove in. We're 10 years on in now, so perhaps it's soon time for me to throw the wood stove in. But if I looks up on the old graph here, and I'm sure I can find it, it doesn't seem like it was much colder than any other year now. I'm not going into the fine detail I'm sure the fine folks at Newfoundland Power went into, but for me, looking at that graphical representation, don't look like it was that much colder. Boys, there got to be something on the go when your power bill doubles. You can be as windy as you want. Now, no doubt, a lot of people are on mini splits like myself. As it gets colder, their efficiency drops. So obviously, you got to burn more energy to actually get the same amount of heat. And you might find your baseboard start kicking on in some portions of the house too, especially with a mini split, because you don't get all the way through the house. That being said, to actually double your energy bill is a lot. They put out a report and they said of all the phone calls that came in, 97% of them were solved in one phone call. Now, what does that mean? You might put that out as a great success. Well, I look at that. Somebody got on the phone, called in, said, my power bill is double. Why? They spit out something about cold weather. The boys on the other end said, you're cracked. It's not just cold weather. The boys on Newfoundland Power end probably said, well, what do you want us to do about it? And the boys on the phone probably said, I'm not getting over you. Hung up the phone. Now, that call might be resolved. Whether someone is satisfied on the other end, I don't think so. I did see one little bit of media out there that said that they were shagging around with the frequency. You can put a little bit of water in that if you want. Myself, I don't think so, because once you start getting outside on the frequency a whole lot, you're going to start either damaging electronics or she'll actually trip off. There's mechanisms in the grid that once she gets too far above or below the target frequency of 60 hertz, the actual power will trip off from the grid because it's too dirty. They call it dirty power. So I don't think that's really what's on the go there. Now, there could be a lot of credence held if your power bill was estimated, because sometimes if they can't get to the meter, they'll estimate the power bill. How can you really estimate how much power someone's using? Well, you can look at the graphs of years before for usage, but if you were doing that, you wouldn't expect it to jump so drastically. All I can tell you, boys, if you want to see it, you go out and take the meter readings for yourself month over month and make sure that Newfoundland Power are staying honest with you. Beyond that, you actually can put systems in your breaker box to measure how much energy you're actually using. Them setups cost about $400 or $500, and at the end of the day, even if you did see a difference between what you measured and what Newfoundland Power measured, would you be able to get it rectified? Probably not. They'll likely say at the end of all that, no, our measurement is the good one. Yours definitely must be wrong. You can go kick rocks out of it. But if you're so interested in it, you can get them systems put in to see how much energy you actually are consuming. Where does it go from here? I don't know. If you get so many people complaining about it, and the only really recourse, and to be honest, I haven't read the whole report myself. I will try to do that later on in the week. But if there's not a whole lot coming out of that report, you get so many people that feels they're wrong by it, well, maybe it's time for a third-party audit to come in and actually look at the books and see why all these figures are coming out of it. I know a lot of people are pissed off about it, and if it was me as well and my power bill had doubled, well, I would be too. Good news, my parts have arrived at Funfest. Wicked. Now, boys, I'm looking at my watch there. 'Tis 20 to 12. I can still catch the end of open line, so that'll do it for the VOCM topic of this week. And as we wraps up that topic, well, boy, that's the last segment in this episode 9 of the Harbour Yarn podcast. We made it through another one, boys, and like I always do say, if you stuck around this long to listen to me ramble and roll on through this yarn, I do appreciate you. It's always a laugh to sit down and have an old yarn in this sort of a long form format, but it's always nice to know that someone is following along as well. Boys, wherever you're tuning in from this week, I hope you're doing well. I hope your power bill didn't double in the past little while, and if it did, well, boy, I hope you can find some sort of way to get it rectified. Now, boys, for myself, I'm going to enjoy the last few minutes of open line with Paddy Daly, but I hope you're having a great week wherever you're at, and we'll catch you on the episode 10 of the Harbour Yarn podcast, boys. Like VOCM do say, arrive alive, VOCM cares.